Hello and welcome to another episode of Wedflics. I'm your host, Julia Brame. I'm the founder and editor of Brides Up North, the top UK wedding blog for northern couples, and the editor of Unveiled magazine, the bridal go-to glossy. So today on the show, I am chatting to not one, but two supremely talented people. It's Shazia and Chris, the duo behind Chocolate Chip Photography. Now in this episode, we talk about everything from the joy of a smaller COVID or otherwise wedding to how to source your wedding supplier and all sorts in between. I hope you love the programme. Okay, so hi Chris and Shazia from Chocolate Chip Photography. You're joining me for today's show, so welcome.
Welcome, thank you very much. No, thank you very much for having us. It's been nice to be with you.
So if you're watching this on our Wedflics channel, it'll be pretty obvious to you which one is Chris and which one is Shazia. But they are a husband and wife photography duo based in Newcastle, and they're here to talk to wedding couples today all about their services, their style, why they love weddings, and specifically as well about the, I want to say trend, but it's not really a trend, but the need for smaller weddings and why they're pretty damn cool. So let's get started. So Chris and Shazia, do you want to introduce yourself and your business and just tell us a little bit about what you're all about, really?
Sure. Are you going? No, okay. Well, so I'm Chris, this is Shazia, and like I say, we're Chocolate Chip Photography. We've been photographing weddings for probably nearly about 10 years now, and been sort of in the industry for a little bit longer than that. Obviously, over time, our styles developed and our brands developed and our business has developed and everything, you know, relationships with customers, everything that we do. I would, for a long time, I probably would just we would have described ourselves as, oh, no, we'll keep out of the way and we'll let you enjoy the day, which we do. And I know a lot of photographers say that, but I think what we've realized this year is actually what we're there to do is probably do that, but also make an impact on the day as well. You know, and not just kind of keep in the background and sort of hide and not really speak to everyone. You know, we're there, we'll engage with your guests, we'll talk to them, and, you know, we'll have a good time with them, and we're part of the wedding day. And I think that's kind of what we've probably took us 8 years to realize that that's what it was. But yeah, we've there to make an impact on the day and sort of be part of it and have a good time with couples. And that's what we do, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I love that because you are personalities. So I've got to know you. I knew you before, but I've got to know you even better through our Unveiled network and the Zoom calls and the chats we've been having there. And I really like you guys, actually. So
oh, thank you. We try.
Cringe, but that is genuine, and I do think you're such lovely people, and you're pretty cool people, and that comes across in both your work and in your dealings with the suppliers is the way that I've been speaking to you. But I think that definitely bringing that personality both in terms of your images and to the service you provide on the wedding day, particularly when it's a smaller wedding as well, where you will be more noticeable amongst the crowd, that is a really big asset for sure. Yeah. So how did your business begin then, and how come you kind of work together?
Well, back probably in 2010 or 11, I think Shazia started photographing on her own part-time. So we were both working in full-time jobs at that time. Certainly I
was doing a master's degree.
Oh yeah, Shazia was doing a master's degree, and and Shazia started photographing weddings part-time. Just on her own. I had no intention of photographing weddings at that point. I had a job and I was working in the industry and that kind of thing. And then I'd say around 2012, I decided that I wanted something more and different. And I don't really know how it happened. I think it kind of fell into place. Shazia had a series of weddings booked in already, and I just kind of went along and started shooting the weddings with her as a second shooter. And then it just grew. It was a snowball effect from there, really. It just grew slow, steady away. And then I'd probably say, I mean, this was like around September 2012 when I'm talking about, and then probably say by about 2015, it just snowballed into this mammoth, uncontrollable thing, and we've been flying ever since. I think obviously we've learned over time about different things. Obviously our photography's improved. We've brought more of our personalities into the business. I think when you first start out, you kind of almost like, what should I do? Well, I'll do what everybody else is doing kind of thing. And then I think, we quickly realized that actually what probably our couples wanted was something more. And I think eventually we realized that probably what they wanted was more of us and more of our personality, not just us on the day, but in our work as well. So it just it snowballed from there, really, in that sense. You know?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that it did snowball in the way that you described, because your work is distinctive, so your style does stand out. So to me, it kind of, obviously I've been around for ages in this game, and for me, at first, I probably would have put you with the sort of more alternative wedding crowd, because of the sort of the darkness in the images and the depth of colour, and just sort of the way you positioned yourselves, I guess, as well. Mm-hmm. But I think that's changed. My perception of that's changed. Your images are they don't just sit in that bracket. They're really beautiful, and they're kind of art pieces rather than following it a certain way of being. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, we're making a conscious effort to try and make it more timeless. Like, we don't follow fads and follow trends.
No.
Because that does date
a
photo like sepia 10 years ago, or color picking.
Yeah,
we don't do any of that.
We refer to them the trends that have come and gone over the years. Like when we first started, everyone was color picking. One little bit in color, a flower in color, and everything else was in black and white. And the problem with that is you look back at someone's photographs and you can tell when they got married based on the style of the editing, because that's what was in at the time. We've never done that. We've always been more about just as you said, making it look timeless, making it look like when you look at the photographs, you can't really tell whether it was shot 6 years ago or last week. That's the idea being you open your wedding album in 10 years time and it should just look like the day it was shot without feeling as if it's older. And that's kind of what we always wanted. And I think,
but at the same time as well, we try and do stuff that keeps us engaged and interested as well. Like, we're using a lot of different techniques and in-camera effects and stuff like that, just to keep our interest up. And I think when we're more interested and engaged with creating art instead of just documenting, then it keeps it all relevant. And
I think it's about having the right couples coming through the door, which I'll potentially talk about afterwards, which is a huge part of us and what we're about and why we've been so successful. It's the couples who are coming to us, and there's sort of a reason as to why that's the case, which I can talk about if we need it.
Yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, basically, okay. We'll drift slightly, but I'll get back to the point. We were kind of, I remember, like I say, for the first couple of years, we were just kind of doing, we're doing a good job and we're improving and we're getting better. But I think we were I would refer to our work as like, we've looked back on it now and sometimes it's kind of like, like you look at it and just think, oh no, how did we shoot like that ever? And then, but obviously as through learning, as through life, you're improving. But I think around about 2014 time, someone just gave us the best advice probably ever, which was just be yourselves. Don't try and be anybody else. Don't try and do what everybody else is doing. Just do what you think is right. And also put yourselves out there as well. Don't be afraid to put yourselves out there. And obviously when someone says that to you, like, what if people don't like us? And it was like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the people who don't like you. Just like concentrate on the guys who do love you. And in some ways you build, I don't mean this to sound arrogant or anyway, but you kind of build like a bit of a fan base. It's a bit weird. It's weird, but kind of what we found is that when you do that and you put yourselves out there, you have a stronger relationship because you're attracting couples, and it's more than just that photographer couple relationship, because you get on so well with them. You're making friends, you know what I mean? Like you really are genuinely making friends, and it's not kind of like friends, it's kind of like real, it's like really good strong friendships. And we've spent a lot of time with our couples in and out of the weddings, whether they've been to our wedding or birthday parties or whatever, we have these really good relationships. And I think that just seeps through in everything that we do. And I think also because you are attracting couples who are like you and have the same interests as you and the same vibe, I think they also want the same things as well. But it also, from a trust level, like when we did a wedding on Saturday just gone, it was absolutely lashing it down. I don't know if you remember the Saturday, just absolutely tacked it down all day. And the bride and groom were like Shazia was like, do you want to go out in the rain? And they were like, yeah, we'll go out in the rain. And I'm not just talking about a little bit of rain, it was tanking it down. And they were stood there. The groom was absolutely soaked. The bride was soaked, but she was loving it. And that's the trust factor I think you get when you've got that relationship with your couples. So it seeps through into everything. But I think also from a creativity point of view, I think when we want to try something different, they know that it's in their best interest to give us that freedom to do that, so it allows us to develop while at the same time they don't feel like they're, you know, that it's not a gamble for them. They know that we're going to do a great job for them, and they're actually really happy that we're willing to try something different. And I think for them, it's nice for them as well, because they'll probably get something different than a lot of their other friends.
Yeah, 100%. I would totally agree with that thing about being yourself. I mean, in my business for years, I kind of put on a forward-facing appearance until very recently, actually, until this year, actually, I did that. And then for me, within our Unveiled network, which for brides and grooms watching is sort of like a community behind the scenes where we talk and exchange ideas and support each other and things. I've been very open and kind of shown myself and shared ideas. I shared one this morning, kind of with a bit of vulnerability, and that has massively allowed people in, and it has massively boosted what I do, because it allows people to give me their ideas, and then I feed off that. And it's not just a kind of, here's something we've packaged and presented. It's, wait a minute, what do you guys want? Like, what do you know, what should we do with this idea, and things like that. So I totally agree with you that once you kind of show yourselves, and if you're having fun, then you get into the flow of it. So you attract the right couples and you're enjoying it. So that enjoyment then kind of rubs off on the day and on what you present at the end of the day. And then it kind of, like, we're using the word snowball a lot here, it's getting towards winter, snowballs and snowballs, and more of the right sort of couples will then be knocking on your door.
Yeah, like people by people. It's like, it's, you know, absolutely 100%, you know, whether it's us that are using a service from somebody else, or whether it's the couples who come to us. It's that, you know, I remember in the early days, probably before we got our studio, you know, like I used to go out to people's houses and I'd turn up with my shirt and tie on, and that's not me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just not me at all. And when we kind of literally after we were given that advice of be yourselves for the 14 months before we got our studio, we would start meeting people in coffee shops and things like that. And that was a bit more us, you know what I mean? More relaxed. I'm sat there in my Star Wars t-shirt. Shazia sat there in you know, probably better dressed than I was. But kind of, you know, the idea was that kind of we weren't just there in shirts and ties being like, yeah, so we'll do a good job for your wedding. It wasn't that. It was more about, hey, look, just let's talk absolute rubbish for 2 hours about cats, cheese, everything other than weddings. And then
by the way,
usually at the end of a consultation, it'd be, so what do you want to do about the wedding? It's like, oh yeah, we'll book, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, that happens a lot. Like, we just literally come in and, you know, whether we go for food with our clients, like we had a couple who booked, they were going to get married this summer, and they got in touch probably, I'd say early last year. And they said, look, can we come and see you next week? And we were fully busy for the whole week, apart from the Monday, which we'd left free to go for tapas on the Monday night, me and Shazia, just a date night. So we said, why don't you just come along for tapas? So literally the couple met us in the tapas restaurant. We sat there eating tapas, and then literally they just booked there and then. And it was kind of like, it was lovely, but we rarely talked about the wedding at all. We just sat there eating tapas and drinking sangria, and that's kind of what we're about, you know, and that relationships we get that way with the couples are just absolutely key. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah, that's so nice. And I'm hoping that this what we're doing now, this show, will give them a little bit of that. It'll give the couples watching it a little piece of your personality that then they can follow up with you. And, you know, this is why our little live sessions work as well, because they just get a little snippet of actually who's behind the brand, and then think, oh, okay, and it all falls into place. So yeah, it works really well. Shazia, so you mentioned some training back then, your masters. Do you have technical training then in photography and video?
In video, we both have bachelors in video, and then after the bachelors, he ended up getting a job working in video. I carried on and did a master's degree. So yeah,
our training was really a video, wasn't it? And we
video.
just kind of fell into the photography.
I always had the photography interest.
Yeah.
Just didn't work out to going and learning it. But video is very similar anyway, like in terms of composition, lighting, all that sort of, and storytelling. Like, storytelling was a big part of video, because
you have to be able to tell a story to be able to do a video.
So it's all transferable skills.
Yeah.
And one Christmas birthday, you got me a camera.
Yeah, I bought Shazia a camera.
And it just started there, like messing about with the camera, and then.
What a great investment.
Yeah, it's worked out quite well. Yeah.
yeah.
One of my better birthday presents, if I were to say so, you know.
Yeah, that was the gift that kept on giving, wasn't it?
It is,
So you mentioned video. So you haven't the video's not gone. You also offer video, don't you? So do you want to tell us a bit about that part of your service too?
Yeah, so we've done videos. We've done wedding videos for a long time. Like I said, we set up Chocolate Chip September 2012. We just did the photography for the first year, and then we, at that time, around about the summer of 2013, there was barely, I don't think there was hardly anyone doing both photography and video as one company. It's more popular now, but at the time it wasn't.
At the time it was photographers offering video, but then filming it on their photography cameras.
Yeah, like a bit on the side. Do you know what I mean?
Without lighting.
Wasn't a proper wedding video, was it? So we introduced that, and we hired a full-time videographer, and we were doing that, and then the photography got so popular by spring 2017. We were so busy, and we just kind of like, there was so much going on, and it was crazy, and we had a chat. We opened the studio. We had so much going on, and I was like, I cannot do all this. Like, I was like, I'm not built. I love taking photographs and I love filming, but I was like, I can't run all this business. It's too much for me. So so we decided to sort of let the wedding videos. We just basically stopped taking on wedding videos at that point in time. We still fulfilled what we had in. So the people who booked with us for up to this year, we still fulfilled those videos, but we just kind of didn't really take on any new bookings unless we were like on request. You know, some people would be like, just do videos. You did my friend's video. Yeah, absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? But we just didn't advertise it. And then obviously with this year and the way things have gone, the way things are going, we still have all the equipment to do the videos, you know, everything that we need. And when, you know, a lot of people now, prior to this year, they booked the both of us to photograph the day. So, you know, some people obviously did book single photographers, but a lot of people tended to book the both of us. But with micro weddings now, they don't need two of us to photograph the day because there's simply not enough guests and things going on. So what we said to our couple was, I said, well, look, why don't we can do you a wedding video, you know, as well as doing the photography. So it means you're keeping it within us. You know, you don't have to go and hire somebody else, another company, another deposit, all that kind of stuff. Another household, you know, because we've done a few of these macro weddings this year, and we've turned up. I mean, we did one in Penrith at the start of September, and we turned up at the registry office, and the gentleman, the registrar, was like, well, you two can't stand over there. And I says, we're in the same household. I'm like, is that fine? He was like, oh yeah, it's fine. He said, you can just stand over there and lick each other for all you want. And I was like, okay. Yeah, like, you know, the idea being, you know, it allows us to both be in the
Chris
same.
was into that idea, right?
No, not really, no. But yeah, it was just so funny, but kind of, it just took us off guard a little bit. I was like, okay. But the idea is that, like I say, we can just both easily fit into a new wedding. From our couple's point of view, they don't need to worry about booking a new supplier, risking having to shift another supplier. And, you know, it's easy enough. It's just two of us coming instead of one of us. Do you know what I mean? So
we've worked together for years, obviously. So
yeah, we've been together for 16 years, and we've worked together for 10 years. So we know each other like the back of our hand.
Uni as well. What? 16 years.
Oh yeah, if you count uni, we worked together in uni. So we've been together a long time. We know each other like the back of our hands, and it's just easy for our couples. So yeah, we started doing the videos again for the micro weddings. I don't necessarily intend to keep doing them once weddings return to normal, but for the minute it's quite nice actually. It's good.
Sticking on the sort of small wedding theme, you were telling me off camera that we've or off recording, depending on how you're listening or watching this, that you've actually shot quite a lot of micro weddings during COVID. And that you know, the bookings are kind of coming in as people decide to go ahead. Yeah. So what's been your experience of the smaller weddings? Do you want to?
Well,
they've been nice, haven't they?
They've been really lovely, nice. Really nice. And I think it's interesting. Like we obviously, prior to you know, the couples who we did 2 weddings in July. The first one that we did was on about the 11th of July, and it was just a really small church wedding, and then they had they had some fizz on the cobbles outside, and then they literally did their first dance outside Central Station.
Yes, I remember seeing this one. I think I shared the post that you put out maybe there.
And that was lovely. And they literally got in touch like 10 days before, and they originally wanted us to photograph their original dates, but we were booked when they got in touch. So obviously with the change, they got back in touch with us and said, you know, are you free on this new date? And we were, so we went and did that. And that was kind of what that was. It was always intended when they booked with us to be this smaller wedding, and we knew exactly what was going to be the case. Then the second one we did was more of an elopement for one of our couples who are still booked in with us, but still wanted to get married this year. So they've pushed the big party, but they still wanted to get married this summer. So nice. We did that up at Riding Mill. in Northumberland, and then we went up, and then
you
we
were witness.
I witnessed for the groom, and then we went up to Sycamore Gap afterwards, and because you'd never get up to Sycamore Gap on a wedding day, like with the couple wouldn't leave the guests for that long, you know, so there's a lot of things we could do. It chucked it down, but it was amazing, it was brilliant. And then the one we did in Penrith, again, that was a new wedding, and a small 30 guest wedding. They got married at the registry office, had the reception in their back garden, so they just got 30 guests, pop-up gazebos, and just had like a really informal buffet, like, you know, like sort of like buffet. It was lovely. It was really, really nice. And then, but the last three that we've done over the last couple of weeks, they've been the guys who've been booked in for a while and still decided to go ahead. So we've had conversations with those couples prior to doing their weddings, you know, like way back, you know, like even when they're in the stage of don't I go ahead? And I think kind of what I'd said to all of our couples based on our own experience, because we got married last year and we eloped and we had the full wedding day a few days later. So we've done both. So we know what it's like to do both as a couple and as photographers, you know, so we've got a really good idea. And what we said to all our couples was, it doesn't matter, truly doesn't matter how many guests you've got coming to your wedding, whether you have a small micro wedding or you have the big 150, 180, 200 guest wedding. When we've done weddings in the past, the couple who have the small wedding don't have any less of a good time than the couple who have the big wedding. Everybody still has an amazing day in the exact same way. So and I said to our couples, whether you do go ahead right now, if you do, it will not affect your happiness on the day. You will still have an amazing day. And I think when I say that beforehand, a lot of couples are like, right, I can't see that now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the interesting thing has been
Everyone
after the weddings, everybody has made a point of saying like to us, you were both right. You were both exactly right. I've had an amazing day. It's been better than I ever expected it to be. But also the interesting thing, which everyone said this summer, who has planned the big wedding and gone for a smaller wedding, has been that it's been so much less stressful and so much easier to plan, and to a point where what a lot of them have kind of said, I wish we'd done that in the first place, which was interesting because it's one of them. It's the benefit of hindsight, isn't it? That, you know, like afterwards, like when we, you know, we can say beforehand as much as we want, and they won't believe us, but afterwards, they're kind of like, yeah, actually, this was great. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, like I said, we've always been a fan of smaller weddings, and I think that's the way we say it to our couples. Like, just said, like, you know, we're not pushing you to go ahead. It's fine if you postpone, and we understand if you do want to postpone, but just, if you do want to go ahead and you're unsure, it just really will not, you will have an amazing day. It will not change that in any way.
From a photography perspective as well, it means we can do a bit more.
Yeah.
As well, like we can. You don't have 150 guests to get around in a lineup or a post ceremony hugs and everyone wants to speak to you. Like, it can be over a lot quicker, and then we can go out and get like more creative, more like
just spend a bit more time with them and stuff like that. But I think as well, what a lot of our couples have been doing, who've still been going ahead these last few weeks, they've been live streaming the ceremonies when they can online. So like guests have, you know, they were tuning in and watch them online, and it's just meant that kind of guests can still see the ceremony, still see the speeches potentially. Obviously, we've been doing the wedding videos as well, so they'll be able to watch it back later anyway. It's still important a way to sort of include the guests in the day, even if they're sat at home on the sofa with a bottle of fizz. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've still been able to do that. The one we did a couple of weeks ago, most of the guests were coming over from Ireland, and so there was a lot of guests who tuned into the ceremony, and they were all just sort of sat on the sofa, apparently just, you know, like bottle of champers, just kind of like, you know, enjoying it from home. So people can still be involved in your day. I totally appreciate it's not the same as what it would have been if everyone would have been there, but it's not necessarily meant that it's any less enjoyable. And that our couples have confirmed that after, you know.
I think this is such kind of, I'm hopefully going to clip a little bit of this to share front and center on our socials, because it's it's a really important message. What's really interesting about hearing you talking about the weddings that you've worked on this year is you almost tell the story of the differences in guidance. So you kind of started off there with just the ceremony was allowed, and then you had someone using their back garden, which was like allowed for a bit, and then you went to like your venue-based weddings, and then even smaller. And so it's really kind of interesting that actually this year, although it has been rubbish, let's be honest, for brides and grooms making decisions about their wedding days, it also has opened up options in a weird way to them that maybe they weren't able to explore before because of expectation, or because, you know, that's the way they thought they had to do things, or which is the same as expectation actually, but I kind of meant family pressure and expectation. So yeah, it's quite interesting that there are options. And definitely that couple that did the sort of the small elopement followed by the big party later, that is 100% what I would be doing. And I've said this like time and time again. But you do really get the best of both worlds there, because you get this intimate special day for just you and your family, or you and whoever you want to have, or just the two of you, plus some suppliers to kind of help you do it and capture it. And then you get the big day later. And okay, so full disclosure here, I watch Made in Chelsea, and which is quite an embarrassing admission to make. And at the moment, there's a storyline running where Ollie is getting married to Gareth, and Gareth wants to go ahead and just wants to be married to Ollie and do the smaller wedding, whereas Ollie, who's very well known for being a very flamboyant type of character, he wants to, have the big wedding with hundreds of people and make it really fabulous and all this sort of thing. And so they're kind of going through the process now of, will they, won't they, just do the smaller wedding? And it was kind of concluded in, this is very up to date, Made in Chelsea, got spoilers. But it's concluded in yesterday's episode that they were going to do it because it was all about the love between them, and then have the big party later. And I will admit that I cried a bit, Made in Chelsea.
Well, when Gareth and Ollie watch this later, just for them, they can, say that, like you say, we did it last year. We did both, and
you wanted the big do. I wasn't.
It's not that I wanted the big do. I think what it was is, obviously we've shot weddings for a long time, and the number of times I've been there on a wedding day, and everyone's there with all the friends and family, and I've just kind of thought, like, this would be nice. But for us in particular, like the nature of our jobs, we don't really see our friends and family as much as we'd like, just because when we're working weekends, they're off, and when we're off in the week, they're at work. It's just the nature of the wedding industry that you have to kind of get used to, and that's fine, that's okay. But obviously we don't really get to see each other, everyone that often. And I think weddings are that one occasion when everyone comes. Do you know what I mean? Like, to the wedding, like everyone will make the effort to turn up. Whereas if it's a birthday party, some people will, some people won't. But a wedding, people really come. And I just thought it'd be nice to sort of have that day. On the flip side, afterwards, again, the benefit of hindsight, which I was talking about earlier, was that, like, when we eloped, we have a couple who were due to get married next March at Wylam Brewery, which is where we got married as well, actually, funnily enough. And I spoke to her on the phone last week, and they were thinking about what to do with the options. And she said they were thinking about possibly pushing the big day at Wylam, but still getting married in March. And I'd suggested to her the idea of an elopement, because I said we did that, and I'll talk in a minute about the benefits of it from what we found. But what they've gone ahead and pushed the Wylam date, and then they're going to elope in the Lake District. So they've both said they want to take us over there and do that. Now, from personal experience, like, we've said quite a lot of times to some of our couples recently that when we did both days, on a typical wedding day, you're running around all over the place. Everyone's pulling you pillar to post. It's amazing, but it's very much like little bits of everything, and you don't really remember a lot of stuff. It's very whirlwindy, you know how it is. But kind of with an elopement, like for us, I remember, like, we both remember everything from start to finish, from the moment we woke up all the way through to the end of the day, because we didn't have them million things going on, being pulled from here, there, and everywhere, timings to me going off, doing this, fitting this in. It wasn't that. It was just a nice, relaxed experience. But like I say, you don't have to just go to the registry office. You can go and elope somewhere. You can go to a really nice place. Like, we went up to the Isle of Skye and obviously got some beautiful photographs, and kind of, we called in at the Chippy on the way back. We didn't have a sit-down meal or anything. There was Shazia in a wedding dress, me and McKill, and then we had all the photographers and videographers just there at the counter. We're like, yeah, can I get a large chips and you know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. And that for us was amazing. Obviously, it depends what kind of person you are. I absolutely appreciate that. But for us, it was, I just loved it. And again, because a lot of our couples are like us, the guys who are getting married in the Lake District now, like I said, that appealed to them because very similar vibe to us. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, a lot of people are like, oh, I have to get married in the registry office. It's like, you don't have to get married in the registry office. No. You don't have to.
You can get a celebrant and go get married on the side of the mountain. Well, that's what we did. But Scotland, you can get married outdoors, so it was all legal anyway.
Yeah.
So
it's like there's a bunch of options there, and I think it's been good for us. Like, I think now that we've got married, we obviously have the experience from both sides of it to be able to give good advice to our couples. A number of times I've said, as a photographer, da-da-da, as a groom, da-da-da. Do you know what I mean? We can give them all that advice that they need. And I think a lot of our couples have kind of said it's been really helpful this year in that sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it has been. Shazia, did you wear the same dress on your elopement as you did on your party?
Yeah, I did. I paid enough for it, so I wore it a few times actually. I wore it on the elopement. Ran through Heather in it. like in water and all that sort of stuff. It dried. It was fine. Like it didn't really need that much of a clean. I left half of it in sky.
I was gonna say a lot of Shazia's dress is still up in the sky, just because it was very like
it was macrame tassels.
So as she walked through the heather fields, there was just a train behind of the white strands of the dress. So most of it's still in Scotland.
But it was fine. I wore it on the day, and it was like the day in Newcastle. I wore it the day after for a post-wedding shoot in Newcastle, like wandering around the Tyne Bridge and stuff.
You just changed your shoes, didn't you? Like in Scotland, you wore Doc Martens, and then in Newcastle, you wore Irregular Choice, wasn't it? Yeah, Irregular Choice boots. So it's like just changed it a little bit, but
different
that's
hat.
it, really. Yeah, different hat. That was it. Yeah.
Styled
Very
it
nice.
differently, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You see, getting the mileage out of the dress is one of my favourite bits about this sequel wedding thing, because I'm all about the wedding dress. All the, like, you know, the bridal fashion for the guys as well. And the more you can eke out of it, the better for me, to be honest. So, yeah, or you could have two dresses, you know, sort of like have your cake and eat it, really.
Yeah.
We've had people wearing two different dresses, like want to get married and want to go and adventure in.
That's quite like relatively quite common for like a lot of the normal wedding days we've done, for a bride to change into another dress. Like we did one last November, and she just changed into a white jumpsuit on the evening, didn't she, and stuff. You know, like it was lovely. And there's like there's loads of stuff you can do, and I think, like I say, just thinking outside the box a little bit, and almost not just being kind of like, well, I have to do this. I think you break down that barrier and just think about the things that you possibly can do, and like look at, I don't want to use alternative is probably the wrong word, but just kind of look at a few different wedding blogs where people have done different things, and it'll just give you that idea to be able to do something a little bit different. And like we've said to some of our couples, like you can still go ahead now and still have the party later, and everyone always wants a second wedding day afterwards, and I think like now is the opportunity where people can. Do you know what I mean? And this,
definitely. It's a perfect antidote to the post-wedding blues to know you've got your big wedding party planned for next year. It's just perfect.
I think just I was just going to say, sorry, Julia. I was going to say, for this year, a lot of our brides have kind of said the reason why they're still going ahead now is also because they just want something nice for this year. Like, after everything this year and how cruddy it's been, they just want a nice day. And I think that's like they've had that, you know what I mean, which has been good as well. I think that's the other thing. But then they're all kind of saying, we're going to get, we might have a big party later for everybody else. And you have to do both. So
100%. I like that way of thinking as like a positive way to kind of, like to add a positive memory to what for a lot of people has been a bit of a rubbish one. I think is a really nice way to do it. And you'll always, the thing is as well, I do think there's something to be said for like rolling with the times. And, like, if you got married in 2020 and this was how you did it, that's quite cool. Like your wedding photos are going to reflect history, and I like that. See, I quite like a dated, I know we talked earlier about being timeless in your wedding photos, but I quite like a dated set of wedding photos because they sort of, they tell a story, I just, even if it's in the costuming and not necessarily the technical side of the photography, it's probably better if it's in the costuming rather than the photography. But I think it's nice if you kind of just live your life essentially.
I remember years ago, you can't remember when it was, like years and years ago, I saw a blog. It was a couple that got married and had their wedding photographs taken in Sainsbury's. And I remember it was so cool. Like they were in the aisles and they were in the little photo booth thing where you get your passport photos done and stuff. And I just remember it was such a cool set of photographs. And I thought to myself, at that time, I was like, if they can get married and have their photographs taken in Sainsbury's and it looks cool, you can do anything.
Yeah. So if a couple is searching for their wedding photographer, where do you advise them to start? Like, what should they do to get their search going?
I think
what did we? Oh, we can't.
This is a difficult one. We can't really speak from experience on this one. Like we found our photographer. I'd followed our photographer on Instagram for about a year, even before wanting them as a wedding photographer. Just purely, if someone pops up, you're like, oh, that's really nice. Stuff's really nice. I'm going to follow them just purely for, I guess, inspiration in a way. So when it came to picking, we just got in touch with them and we went that way. We just booked we booked our day around our photographer. Like there's so many people who get in touch and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about this day and I'd love to have you and then we end up being booked and like, oh, it's all right. It's like, well, you could book another date unless obviously there was a reason why they wanted that specific date and it was more important than getting the photographer they wanted. Whereas for us, we originally had a date in mind, got in touch with the photographer and he's like, oh, I'm booked then. So we moved it to the weekend after. So like we were quite flexible about it in that way. But I think from from a choc chip point of view, I'd say most of our bookings come from word of mouth. And I think word of mouth is a funny thing because it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing as well, depending on what someone perceives as being acceptable. So kind of the number of times that we've spoken with couples who've booked with us in the past and they're like, oh yeah, my friend recommended like their photographer, but they just weren't for me or weren't very good or whatever. Now, the weren't for me thing is a very important thing because what will work for one person won't work for somebody else. It doesn't necessarily mean it will work for two people depending on what couples want. So kind of word of mouth is good. We get most of our bookings from word of mouth, but at the same time, you know, it's not the be all and end all. Like, don't, you know, take the recommendation, yes, but don't just go with the photographer because they've been recommended. You know, the style has to suit you. They have to be able to do what you want them, you know, like that kind of thing, you know. So I'd say, you know, a good place to start would be to obviously find out if any of your friends have got married and if you've seen your friends' wedding photographs pop up on Facebook, message them and say, look, who did you photographs? How were they? And I think a lot of the stuff, I was going to talk about this separately, but I might as well mention it now. Like a lot of stuff that we are recommended on isn't the photographs. Like, as in, like, the photographs are great, but I've always kind of said that with wedding photography, it's kind of like this iceberg effect. Like couples, when they're initially looking for wedding photographers, they're looking at the photographs, but really that's like the 10% above the surface. There's so much more underneath the surface that goes into the wedding day. And for us, we've made sure we talked about it earlier in the chat about why we've, you know, partly why we've been able to do what we've done. And I think a lot of it is we focused on the customer experience. That's what's been important for us, making sure that this is the one time they're going to get married. We want them to have like the best time. You know, like when couples go on honeymoon, they don't just go on a normal holiday. They go on the holiday. Do you know what I mean? Like the holiday that they're going to remember forever. And that's the way we approach the weddings. Yes, it's about the photographs, but it's also about the little details. And little details are so important. And often when we're recommended, when our couples are chatting with their friends, you know, it's the little details that they're talking about. You know, like the photographs, someone can look at the photographs and go, oh yeah, they're really nice. Conversation done. It's all about how were they on the day? Did they get on well with you? Were they professional? Were they organized? You know, all these little things. Like we've just started planting trees for our couples after the weddings. So kind of after every wedding done, the couple get a tree planted. So kind of, again, it's just a little thing. It wouldn't be a reason why someone would book with us if our photos were rubbish. But it's kind of, you know, like, oh, your photos are rubbish, but you plant a tree, I'm going to book with you. It wouldn't do that. But it adds to the experience of kind of the whole thing. And we've always said, you know, like that's why we get recommended. So when couples are talking to their friends, just talk beyond the kind of photographs. You know, did they turn up on time? Did they not turn up on time? Did they organize things? Did they not organize things? You know, it's that kind of stuff, the running of the day, that I think people will be sort of recommending other people on.
I think the biggest thing used to be, not so much anymore, wedding fairs, but
yeah,
that's not a thing.
Not right now.
Wedding fairs were huge for us.
So I'd say the next stop would be like online directories and wedding blogs and stuff like that. But then also their websites and how, like, try and get a feel for the personality, their Instagram, their Facebook, like just see if you can get a feel for them through what they're posting, and if you like.
Instagram's like you can't get anything in depth off Instagram. Instagram is literally like it is a portfolio. It's a portfolio of images. You're not going to get anything more deeper than the actual photographs from Instagram. Possibly personality, but you're not going to get anything beyond that really, truly with Instagram. You know, that's why generally photographers will have a website and, you know, reviews. I mean, mums are our best marketers. Like mothers of the brides, man. I need them on pay. I need to be paying them every time, because literally, like, the number of brides we have coming into us and be like, oh, you did so and so's wedding. It's like, oh, do you know them? No, but I work with a mum. And it's because a mum, proud as punch, has walked into work with a little wedding album made up, and she's been showing everyone at work, and she'll work with this lass who's getting married and she just got engaged, and all the time. So like, so mums, you know, mums are great. And I think, like, often when we've been talking with, you know, brides at the wedding fairs and they're there with the mams and stuff, you'll talk to the bride, I will talk the mum's ear off all day long, because the mum is going to get in the car, drive home and be like, weren't they really nice, you know, like, and so mums are why we get most of our.
You are right. I love the mums at our wedding shows. Like, we always have a bit crack with them, because I think you're right. They're just as important as the couple themselves when it comes to decision making. Sometimes.
What's interesting is, again, this isn't a whole truth, but like we've always said for years that when we used to do wedding fairs, we would tend to always do well with the couples who came as a couple. So if a bride came with her bride squad, generally we wouldn't pick up loads of them bookings, but we would generally pick up a lot of the bookings where the bride and groom had come together to look together. Like that's how we look for everything, like together. You know, we didn't have, you know, Shazia didn't go off all the bridesmaids. Shazia didn't have bridesmaids, but Shazia didn't go off with all the bridesmaids. It wasn't like that. And I think it's just because we, again, partly because of our personalities and the way we approach our business and being ourselves, like I can chat with the groom and then Shazia can be chatting with the bride. And then, you know, there's obviously crossover there, but it means that we're targeting them both while we're talking to them. You know, we very rarely just get brides coming into the studio or brides just on a Zoom call for a chat. It's always the bride and the groom coming. And I think my thing I've always said to my couples, you know, even if I spoke to a bride, I'm like, go away and chat with the groom. Like, I'm not going to push you into it. I want to make sure he's happy, even if he doesn't care, as long as he gives the go ahead, because he's got to spend all day with us as well. Do you know what I mean? So kind of, you know, it's important for us that we have grooms who are like, yeah, I'm happy with that. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And just kind of however that relationship falls, really, I think it has to be a decision from both of you on whether you're, you know, whether it's about the images or whether it's about the people being there with you on the day or whatever kind of is feeding into the decision-making process. I think both parts of the couple have to come to that conclusion together. And I like it as well when like the couples come to the show, whether it's a bride and groom or a bride and bride or a groom and a groom, because you kind of know that, well, from my point of view as the host, I know that there's going to be engagement. I know there's going to be bookings for my suppliers because they're there and they're actively engaged. If it's a group of bride and bridesmaids, I mean, I like that too because it's quite fun and they're enjoying the experience. But I know that's maybe more of a day out for them. What do you love most about your job? Which bit of your job do you love the most?
People, for me.
Yeah.
I love the people. I love the guests. Happy weddings are happy places to be. And literally the number of times you're doing wedding days and you're like, this is literally the best job in the world. You know, everyone's so friendly, everyone's so positive. I'm a big people person anyway. It sounds weird. I just love watching people, and I don't mean to be creepy, but just people are fascinating to me. And I just, when you're photographing them, particularly when you're documenting the day naturally, and people are engaging and they're laughing and they're having a good time, there's nothing that warms the heart more than that. Do you know what I mean? And like when, you know, looking back through the photographs afterwards and you see someone having a good time and you've captured that shot and they've put it as the Facebook profile picture and you're like, oh man, that's it, that's gold. And it's just like, I love the people, couples and the guests. It's, for me, it's why I do it, at least anyway.
That's a good answer. I was going to say cake as a joke, but yeah, you've kind of...
Well, we both do it for the cake.
Yeah, we do it all for the cake.
Or canapes. Canapes is my other answer, yeah. But
I'd love a canapé right now.
I love a canapé, just a tray of canapes. I'm still aggrieved. When we got married, I ordered 1,000 canapes for all the guests. I had 4. So kind of, it still angers me. So yeah. But yeah, people is the answer for me.
And what bit do you like? Do you prefer? So I think Chris has probably answered that for himself. Like you like to be there on the day, but I mean, do you enjoy the editing bit as well, or is it?
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. Because when you're shooting on the day, you'll see it at the back of your camera, and you'll think, yeah, that's nice, but it really just comes to life in the edit, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
it's just a little bit of a tweak here and there, and it's just like
we've been doing some things recently.
But you really like that shot we did the other day when you saw it after the edit. So you saw it in the back of the camera.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen it. A shot went up the other day on our Instagram from Sunday. It was a couple who were standing in the clouds. Did you see that?
Yes, I have seen that.
So basically, that was mainly in camera. Like it was all in camera. It was, you know, there's no trickery, but it's brought to life. As I said, it's brought to life afterwards. And we did, you know, when we were at the Petit Chateau last Saturday for a wedding there, we were doing some double exposures and things like that. And, you know, you see it in the back of camera, but then when we transferred it to the phone on the day to play around with the edit, you know, before, you know, when we're sat there at the chateau kind of thing, you can tweak it and refine it, and it just makes it that little bit better. And I think, like, I mean, Shazia does all the editing because we have the studio as well and I do that stuff, but kind of you really enjoy the edit process, don't you? Like going through, and it's like it's an extra level on the creation. Do you know what I mean? You're creating the day, and without creating on the day, you couldn't do it. But some people just kind of shoot on the day and then, like, what do they call it? Like shoot and burn, and like,
spray and pray.
No, like the photograph on the day, but then they don't really edit. They just kind of they'll
Really?
Yeah, quite a few people
yeah.
do that. But kind of...
or it's like they'll just run it through a program and then send it out.
Where Shazia will go through image at a time and just tweak and refine it and make it just that, making it better. Do you know what I mean? And it's not
I think that's like the artistic process as well. It's part of the process. I mean, like what you're shooting on back of camera, great, and obviously composition and lighting and setup, and you learn that over time, but the edit definitely enhances and refines. And I, as an editor of a magazine, and blog actually, I can see who's putting the effort post.
I don't know, like it's 50%. The edit is 50% of the process. It is like it's not. It doesn't just end on the wedding day. It's everything else afterwards.
Could be more.
Well, it could be more, yeah. But for us, Shazzy's like, could be more. I do it all. It could be more. No, I think like with the edit, again, with us, Shazia only subtly edits the images. It's not like making them drastically different than what they were in camera. It's just enhancing them and making them a little bit better, popping them a little bit, just kind of to really give them that overall, just really nice finished look. And
and also to keep them consistent as a set of images as well, which is something that I'm a real stickler for with the magazine. When we do a shoot, it has to be like a consistent story, otherwise it's just like a bit odd, isn't it? Oh, good. I really want to get out there and work with you guys soon. I'm excited about
we've got loads of time at the minute, Julia. You can
I know.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Shazia. I'm the same as you. I wear lots of hats in my job, and I love sort of quiet nighttime or alone time, sort of at the computer, just sort of tinkering with the blogs or playing around with graphics or whatever. And it's probably kind of similar to what you do. It's kind of a calming and artistic thing, even though it's on screen. It's a good part of the job, definitely. Okay, guys. So, what would be your dream wedding to shoot?
I think I'm kind of getting a taste of it at the minute with these smaller weddings. You know what I mean?
Weddings with less people. No, it's not that. I'm joking.
No, it's just like people are being a bit more adventurous now, and like we've done weddings in the past where the dress has been the most precious thing of the day, and they won't do anything because they won't want to wreck the dress. Now these brides aren't wanting to wreck their dress, but they're a bit more like, yeah, okay, I'll go lie down in that field for you, or I'll go in the rain for you to get the shot. And all the shots that we've got from brides who are more adventurous and willing have been the shots, haven't they?
We did one, the mini allotment thingy we did on the middle of July. I was telling you about that before. We had her in a lake in a dress, went in the lake in a dress. And you know what I mean? It's kind of like, not everyone would do that. And I think for us is, I'm a very much go big or go home person. Like, and when my clients come in the studio for newborn shoots and stuff like that, when it comes to discussing frames of the law, it's like, go big or go home. Don't get a little one. But kind of like tellies kind of thing. But kind of when it comes to weddings, I'm like, either give it everything or don't, or just do you know what I mean? And that's where the smaller weddings have their benefits, is that you can do some things on, like when a normal wedding day, a couple, we don't like our couples leaving the guests for a long amount of time. It's not fair on the guests. We've spoke to so many people who've been guests at weddings over the years, and they're like, we were guests at the wedding, the photographer took the couple off for 2 hours and we never saw them. We don't want that for our couples. So kind of like on a normal wedding day, kind of you don't have that time to take them off. Whereas obviously with a micro wedding or elopement, you do, and you can do something that's more adventurous. And I think like, that it's good. It's creatively it's satisfying.
But at the same time, like we still really like shooting people as well, like capturing funny stuff happening or like dance floor moments.
Yeah.
So like you don't get that with an elopement with 2 people, but the smaller weddings you can still get a taste of that as well. So
I've always been a fan of that kind of stuff. Like, there's so many photographers who will like go home after the first dance. As soon as the first dance is done, they're off home. We've never done that. That's when the party gets started. That's when you get drunk people falling over and doing all the amazing things that drunk people do. They're the photographs that initially some of our couples like, that's what I want. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a lot of other people are like, I know loads of photographs of drunk people falling over and doing stupid things, but afterwards, them are the photographs that they're probably going to look back on and laugh. And I know that when we look through our wedding photographs, there's some images of two of our friends, and I didn't even know they'd ever spoken, ever. They don't know each other, but there's photographs of them drunk in the dancing, and it's amazing. And they're some of the ones that I like. They were some of the ones that I really love looking back through. And it's kind of, that's, you know, when people ask us what, well, you asked us earlier what we're about, that's what we're about. It's like capturing them things, and you can get that on wedding days and stuff like that, but there's just some things you can't do on a normal wedding day. And I think that's what we're quite enjoying at the moment. Whether it lasts or it doesn't, I don't know. No one knows, but we're enjoying it while it is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think,
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it does. I think you almost want, like, you like the smaller weddings, but maybe without the restrictions. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay, but from doing these smaller weddings, you know, we've had a good time, but then equally over the last 8, 9, 10 years, we have shot some weddings and you've just been like, this is perfect. Like, every wedding's amazing. I'm not like saying it's not, every wedding's amazing, every wedding's beautiful, but some weddings, like
the festival style weddings.
There's a wedding on our website. It's literally the first wedding that comes up on the main page, called the festival one.
Okay.
And Rachel and Kyle got married at Barn on the Bay, and they did everything themselves. And I remember, like, we both shot the wedding, and the bride, Rachel, was getting ready in Newcastle near the quayside, and he was getting ready up at the Barn on the Bay. And then before she arrived, they had a steel drum band on the beach. And it was everything, but it was kind of, I walked into the barn when I arrived, and typically, if we both arrive at a venue, one of us will go off and get all the room details and the ceremony room all set up, and you can normally be in and out within 5 minutes. Whereas there was just so much in terms of detail. They said they spent.
Worried, weren't we?
Yeah, I was like, how? I was just like overwhelmed. I was like, how am I going to capture all this? And they'd spent a year, not just planning it, but a year. Getting all them, Mum had spent a year making dream catchers before the wedding. Do you know what I mean? Like it's been up all night and stuff like that. And we've done weddings in the past where people have spent like a year and a half varnishing pine cones as favourites.
Oh my God, that is just so not my bag.
we had one couple. One couple got married at Tynemouth Priory. They had a nautical themed wedding, and they spent a year folding origami sailboats for the.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, so this is what I was going to say. So. I think it's lovely when people put this much effort in, but I'm just not at all like this. So for me, it would be a great test of whether I could actually marry someone or not if I could get through folding 1,000 origami cranes with them. Yeah. If I couldn't, which I wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't be getting married. So I think, just beware what you ask your other half to do in the preparation and the run up to your wedding.
It was the groom's job to do these sailboats. And he literally just said he said if I see another origami sailboat after this wedding, I'm going to set it on fire. Like, he was literally like, I just can't deal with it. But like, we as a couple, we didn't do any of that. When we had a day in Newcastle, we didn't even have a table plan. Everyone just sat where they wanted. We didn't do nameplates for the tables. We just couldn't be bothered. I was like, because we just, I'm not saying people shouldn't do stuff like that. But anyway, just back to what I was saying about the Barn on the Bay, like, that was one of them weddings where we could almost be like, if this was the last wedding we ever shot, I would die happy. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we've had a few of them weddings already. So I think, I don't know, really. Like I say, the elopements and stuff, we probably want to start doing some more of them because we get a bit more creativity and a bit more adventure and do things we wouldn't normally do. But I think we've already shot some amazing weddings, and like...
When you can see the effort that they put into it, and
that's
see
it.
that it actually means something.
Yeah,
and those are the good ones.
DIY weddings / couples / weddings where couples have really put the effort in to make it more personal. Them are the ones that are truly, I don't want to say the best, but them are the ones that stand out.
They do truly love each other because they've been through the origami making hell.
Yeah. They'll be together forever. Yeah.
That groom, hats off to him, because I couldn't have done it. So, yeah, he's he is there for the day. He's done his time, so now he can have his wedding day. I am, of course, joking. But how do people find you, whether for weddings or newborns or for a family shoot? Where's the best place? What's your Instagram handle? And I will drop it here.
Chocolate Chip Photography. Facebook's Chocolate Chip Photography, and the website. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff on. So for weddings, we've got a really good portfolio on the website. For the weddings, our prices are on the website, which some people don't agree with. I've just found it just makes it so much easier for a couple because they just know what ballpark they're going to be working with when they get
100%, and then there's no surprises either, and it doesn't waste your time or their time. What's your website so that I can draw up it here? I know it, but
www.chocolate-chip.co.uk.
Perfect. And before we go, why chocolate chip? Like, I've always wondered this since knowing you and never have asked you. So why the name chocolate chip?
Okay, so I mean, I guess, well, when I used to work at Nissan, I worked with the branding team around when they were, I was there during recession. So when they were pulling themselves out of recession, it was a case of they were focused heavily on the brand. So when I left Nissan, I said to Shazia, I know we need a brand. We need something that people are going to remember. And chocolate chip came about. I mean, officially, chocolate chip is a great name. It's very different, and then people will remember it. And I think we were talking with our website guys recently. They were saying a lot of people search for us like by our name. A lot of people just search wedding photographer Northeast, wedding photographer this, but a lot of people search for chocolate chip photography versus what they would do with a lot of other photographers, which basically they said that means your brand is very strong because people remember you. Now, so obviously it is good that it's memorable. And it's very us, it's different, it's cool, a little bit different, da-da-da. But, you know, the actual official story, the real story is we spent about 6 weeks when we first started trying to figure out a name.
Because we were just trading under my name before.
Yeah, Shazia just did it under her name, and we thought we need to make something a bit different. So we've come up with all these different names. I thought, oh, that's a good name. And then we check and somebody else had used it. Like, right, okay, back to the drawing board. And then there was one night I was in the house and I thought, I really fancy some cookies, you know, like good cookies, like Miller's cookies, not just the cheap hard cookies. I thought, I really fancy some. I was like, no, I'm going to be good. I'm going to, you know, watch the weight. It's a bit late, da-di-da. And then all night I just dreamt about these cookies, kind of like just dancing around in my mind and whatever. And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, choc chip photography. And then Shazia was like, chocolate chip photography. So literally we just rolled with it. And the first wedding fair we did, we handed out cookies. So we were handing out cookies at the wedding fairs, and it literally just caught then, and it evolved. It became more us. We put ourselves in the logo to make it more us. Yeah. And now it's always been, oh, that's a little bit different. It's cool. It's quirky. It's a bit different than the norm. That's what people always said about the name. Yeah. Now our work is that. Do you know what I mean? It's
nice when we're doing wedding fairs, when you'd see a group walking past, or you can hear them, oh, that's chocolate chip. Oh, they did. Someone's like, if
people know the name.
Someone's name, it's kind of a bit forgettable.
And it's amazing.
Isn't it funny at wedding shows how couples and their bride squads don't realise that you can hear them. Yeah. Like, I find that really strange. Like when they talk openly about you, just a metre away from you.
When you do a wedding fair and they just don't realise they're like loud, they're like, they did that so-and-so's wedding over there. You know, like, you're like, we did, thank you. But
or like,
the other thing
they're talking about me
as well is that, like, there's a few times where we've been recognised out and about. So kind of like we'll be sat in Sainsbury's or something waiting for a prescription, and we had it last year, didn't we? This guy walked past. We've had it this year a few times, but we had it. I remember we were sat in Sainsbury's waiting for a prescription. This guy walked past. He's like, "You guys chocolate chip?" And we're like, "Yeah." He was like, "Shut to me, friends. Weddings. I did a good job." And literally, we were chatting to him for about 5 minutes, and he was like, "Right, I'm off to go get some carrots." And he went off. Like, literally, kind of. It's quite good as well. Like, you know, we're noticed. I think the blue hair beard combination.
Yeah.
Was it? And we also had one lady who was like, you look familiar, but I think it was a different couple that had blue hair and a beard. And I was like, it was probably us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That guy in Sainsbury's, he should have been going to get some cookies. Cookies, not carrots.
He should have been going to get cookies.
Come on, keep the brand going.
But no, it's just, the name's well remembered, you know. And I talked before about, you know, like a bit about the brand and how our couples are a big part of that, and us being ourselves. And it's just the chocolate chip, it's just us. And what was interesting, actually, when we got married last year, my dad was telling me on the day, he said he'd heard a lot of people saying that this is a very choc chip wedding. So on our wedding day, when guests were talking about our wedding to my dad, they've been saying it's a very choc chip wedding, not a very Chris and Shazia wedding, a very choc chip wedding.
That's interesting, isn't it? Strong brand. Right, well, we're going to leave it there. I'm all of a sudden feeling very hungry. I wonder why. So I think I need to pop to the shop. All right, well, thanks, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Take care.